Holy epitome of all that is good, true, and beautiful, my finest of friends. Today on Rogueways, we have the most special episode yet in a long line of truly essential and gorgeous episodes. And that is because one of my heroes is here with me in a moment I literally couldn't have dreamed was possible. But people assure me that this is really happening, that I'm not delusional. So I'm rolling with it. And I am blown away to have the honor of talking today with a man who has changed the world with his insightful humor, his loving and open heart, and his mad skills that flow like hot fire from his center of spiritual creativity. A person who channels source whether he meant to or not, who speaks the truth whether you like it or not, and who inspires thousands whether he knows it or not. Benny motherfucking Wills, thank you so much for being here.
Wow, I was not expecting such a beautiful introduction. I actually just brought a tear to my eye. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm honored. That's really beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah.
That is really beautiful for me to hear. I appreciate it. It's mutual.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so we always start off the episode with a pointless question of the episode. This one's not that pointless, and I asked it, and then I felt kind of guilty for asking it because I don't even know how I would answer it. But the
Uh-huh.
question was, if you had to take one moment of your life into an eternally repeating loop of experience that you could never escape from, which moment would you choose?
Oh man, well that's tough because if you take the perfect moment and you repeat it for infinity, it would be the worst moment, right? I mean, it
That's
would just be
a
the
good
most
point.
like awful and redundant repeating of anything that much would be bad. So that's tough. But that with that in mind,
Okay, let's
um,
say you have to repeat it, I don't know, 100 times and then you get out. Let's do that.
well,
Because
there's
that's a really
this.
good point. It would become like an evil, horrible trap.
I can give more of a general answer. I mean, I so like being on stage performing and being under the spotlight, even though every time I do it right before I go on stage, I want to sort of run far away. But then when I get on there, I thrive in it. And I think that's it. I think if I could stay in that perpetual place where I'm, feeling fully confident and give and take with that energy with the crowd and, you know, that sort of symbiotic relationship would be pretty cool to experience over and over because it's always so fleeting. It's always so brief. But
Yeah,
that's also part of the reason why it makes it special. So that's a tough one.
that's true.
But yeah, something like that.
I like the AT side out of it.
I might revisit it later in the show if I think of something better.
Okay. If anything else comes up. All right, well, then let's start with the beginning. Will you tell us about your young self, your young life?
Yeah, sure. Young self. Well, I was born in Los Angeles, California, to actor parents
Oh, wow.
who met on a commercial audition. Uh, and I grew up around sets and stages and, you know, acting environments around a lot of actors. So I grew up around a lot of animated people, and it was pretty clear early on that I wanted to be a performer. I just loved the idea of performing, and also acting really seemed really easy to me. I was like, oh, you just pretend to be someone else? I can do that. So I was very much into the idea of being a performer and being an actor. Um, I also I showed. I mean, I kind of hesitate to say, but I tended to excel at most things I tried as a kid. So I was a tap dancer for a long time, and I was in a professional children's chorus as a kid. And I played all kinds of sports year round. I mean, I loved playing baseball and soccer and football and basketball as much as I could. I mean, I had a pretty standard childhood, frankly. I mean, I liked playing video games. I mean, I was really. I constantly marvel at how how people go in different paths in life and how I ended up being so sort of able to see things more clearly than others because I feel like I'm just a regular guy, who's
Yeah.
always just been. I like having a good time, and I don't mean to see conspiracies everywhere, but I'm not. I don't look for it. I don't want to see some evil world around me.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I was just a regular kid. I've always been a really good natured person, so I was always really happy as a kid. Very easygoing, very empathic. Knowing, I could tell when I was a kid when my energy as a kid could benefit an adult. Um, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
I knew that I could brighten up a room by being with my kid energy. Sometimes I was aware of that.
You were aware that adults had lost that.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I remember very specific moments, like one of my dad's friends brought his father to our house for dinner, and he was old, and he had been out of the hospital, and he wasn't doing very well, and I just remember thinking he looked like he had been through the ringer, and we walked to a restaurant, and I held his hand, and I didn't know this guy, and I just knew that by holding his hand, it would make him feel really good. Um,
Oh my God.
and yeah, so I was very sensitive. I've always been very sensitive as well. Um, I've always been the kind of kid who stood up, or was the kind of kid who stood up for kids getting picked on at school, because I was never. How do I say this? I was lucky in that I was never a kid who was bullied,
Mm.
but I wasn't a kid who cared about being popular. So because I always was tall, and I was always really good at sports. So I wasn't like nerdy,
You
you
did all
know?
the right things that made people accept you, but you weren't like bought up. You weren't bought into the facade or the lie of it all.
Yeah, and I didn't feel. I mean, I felt I was a happy kid, and people liked me, and
Yeah.
I liked people, and but I also didn't. I had no tolerance for uh, injustice even back then. So if kids were getting picked on, I'd stand up for them, and I also knew how to defend myself. Like some kids would pick fights with me, and my dad taught me that if a kid, hit me, hit him back, or they won't stop.
Nice.
So I like learned how to fight back. Um, and I've always just been a really curious person. I hated school as a kid. In fact, I recently found some schoolwork in a bin that my parents saved from elementary school, and I was always a very unattached student. So I wrote in some journal like "School makes you stupid," and I was like, "Hell yeah!"
You're
Even
a
back
hell of
then, I
an
could see it.
elementary student.
Just all I wanted to do was play and go to PE. So I was and it was frustrate the hell out of the teachers and my parents, because I'd constantly have to have these, you know, parent teacher conferences, and they'd say, "We know he's smart, he's just not applying himself." And I was like, "Yeah, I know I'm smart. I don't need to prove anything to you."
You're like, that is
Um,
applying myself is just being smart.
yeah, so they kept putting me in like the extracurricular classes, and then I would do terribly, and they had to put me back down to like regular class. But they would basically put me in these classes because they could tell that I was smart, but I just didn't care. I was so not caring about school.
But you were learning other things all the time. It's really obvious. So
I was just contemplating things. I mean, I was always really drawn to perspective on things. I mean, asking questions. My mom, to her credit, she taught me very young. She's like, question everything.
yes,
Be curious. Be a curious person. Take nothing at face value. If you want to explore any idea, go for it. And that really, that's a freeing thing for a parent to say.
what a beautiful
Um,
gift. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's why
So.
you probably, I mean, that's why you question everything. And also your sensitive
Mhm.
nature would be why you question everything. Because a lot of people have to go through some sort of like trauma or trouble in order to get that sensitivity and to question what's happening. And you just had it, which is really nice.
Yeah, and
Not that you
you
haven't
know,
gone through whatever, I don't know, but
well, because I'm constantly just shocked by. I'm surprised by people's unwillingness to look at so many things,
mhm.
because I've never been that way. So it's just like, how is this happening? What is it? What would it be like to be someone who holds on to ideas and beliefs so tightly that they can't hear another perspective? Because even as a kid, I mean, learning about the JFK assassination, for instance, in school. I mean, I was not a good student, so I wasn't paying attention. But you learn about JFK, who he was, and that he was assassinated, all in one sentence or one paragraph in school. And then there was like this side note saying, well, there's also a conspiracy theory attached to this that says that claims that he wasn't killed by Lee Harvey Oswald after all. Moving on, and I'm like, whoa, wait a
Oh,
minute. There's another version. There's another story. There's another possibility here. Well, let's talk about that. I was really curious. That was just, it was my interest in perspective. I want to know. I was just curious. Like, wow, you're going to tell me that this president was killed by this guy, and then almost as an afterthought say, well, some people don't believe that at all. What?
And I just
I
pass
want to
on
know
it.
more about that. Like, let's not move on. You're finally interesting me. You know, I'm interested now as a student, and you're going to just move on. But I've always been that way, and that's how I still am. You know, and
Yeah.
I just don't know why I'm like that, and most people are not like that. It's
You
very
and me
strange.
both. I'm the same way. Well, I was just talking to someone about the importance of asking questions and how questions are life. Like if you're not asking questions, you're not thinking, you're not engaging. And if you do ask questions, you're going to get to some really amazing places, especially if you're brave enough to actually accept the evidence that you find.
Yeah, and I'm constantly challenging every single thing that I think I know, always. And if someone has a perspective to offer me that's, different than something that I've thought, I will consider it until it feels like it's, not something to consider anymore. But I am so open to perspective on anything. I mean, everything. Like, what are mountains? Why is there salt in the ocean? What is wind? I mean, really, questions about everything. What is any of this? Why do we believe anything we believe? Where does any of it come from? Where does this information come from? Who's telling us? Why do we know it? Like,
Which
this
is
is just
funny
the
because
way
people are going to look at that and they're going to say, like, well, what's wrong with him? Why is he so stupid that he's asking why there's salt in the ocean? Like, duh. But really, that's the smartest thing you can do is ask literally any question.
Yeah.
Any question.
And this is my experience. I mean, this is my journey. I'm as far as I know, my experience of the world is as me.
Mhm.
And this is the only experience I'm going to have as me here. So I'm allowed to question anything I want.
Yeah.
And no one can take that away from me. And if you don't want to do that for yourself, fine. But don't tell me I can't question what a mountain is if I want to question it. You can't tell me that you think that you know what exactly it is and where it came from and all that. Because why do you think that?
Amen.
Who taught you that?
And did you ever question it when you were
Have you ever questioned anything about why you think what you think?
So
Who taught you?
it sounds like you were always questioning and you were always on that sort of path, but was there anything that kind of like happened earlier on that kind of like shook you and woke you up even more, or?
Yeah. Yeah, sort of a spiritual thing in a way. I mean, that's a tough word
A
to
loaded
use,
word.
but yeah, okay. So certain moments where I could tell that there was something else going on that was outside the material realm, and and I grew up without religion. My parents were probably more atheistic than anything, so I kind of grew up actually scoffing at religion or Christianity, and I've sort of changed my tune on that these days. But because what did I know? How did I think as a kid? How did I go? Yeah, they're so stupid.
Maybe
How did I know that as a kid? But anyway, so one moment that really stands out is there was a big earthquake in Southern California in 1994, the Northridge earthquake, and my family lived about, 5 miles away from the epicenter.
Wow.
So we were hit really hard by this earthquake. I mean, it destroyed everything in our home. It destroyed all the homes in the neighborhood. I mean, it was a real fucker, this earthquake. It's what propelled my family out of California, frankly. Like, we moved. My dad had had enough at that point, and we actually moved to the East Coast shortly after that earthquake.
Oh,
But anyway, I was before the earthquake happened, which was like 4:30 in the morning. I had a dream about an earthquake right before it happened, and it really tripped me out. I mean, I was a 10-year-old kid, and I had this. It was a nightmare. I had a dream where a guy was taunting me, telling me there wasn't going to be an earthquake, and I was getting really scared. And I woke up, and I stood up to go pee, and then boom, this earthquake hit.
wow.
So I
You
mean,
knew.
it was something happened. I mean, I was aware that it was going to happen. Some part of me could tap into that, and that's all I could talk about. When people were, in the ensuing hours and days, I was trying to tell everybody. I was like, I had this dream before it happened, and no one cared.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like, not to say that they should have been like, whoa, tell me more, but it was a very frantic situation. I mean, people were like running around, and I get it.
True. Yeah.
But to me, that was the most significant aspect of the whole thing. Like, I
Yeah.
dreamt about this earthquake before it happened, so that was a big deal. I mean, in retrospect, in particular, looking back and saying like, okay, when did I really start questioning the fabric of reality? And it was in that moment, because I felt like I had a premonition.
Yes.
I did have a premonition, and it's inexplicable.
It is.
So I've always, I mean, it's just sort of shifted the way I viewed all reality. So I'm always just like, what's really going on here? What are we really a part of? And what is time? What is anything? You know, what is this experience?
Yeah. And how could you possibly know something that happens before it happens?
Right.
Like that implies so much just in itself.
Yeah, totally. So,
What a beautiful gift.
I mean,
So
I wish I
then,
could access that kind of thing more often, but it's only but it's happened in other times in my life as well, where something will click, or I'll sense something, or, you know, the synchronicities. I mean, if you listen to the
yes,
signs, they're everywhere. And no one, and even people who try to
what
debunk synchronicity, I don't care really what you have to say about it. I
no,
don't pattern recognition or whatever kind of scientific explanation you have. You can't deny me my experience. Period.
because your experience is gnosis. You know now. Nobody can take an experience away from you because that knowing is never going to be able to be debunked in itself. Like they can themselves, and I guess if that works for them, that's cool. But it doesn't change the experience you had.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, lifting the veil in reality, or just peeling back any of the layers of how this system is set up or how it governs our lives, people just don't want to know. It's too scary. It's too scary.
It
So
is
they want to shut people up who are trying to, you know, talk about it.
well, and then I kind of wondered, like, is it even fair to try to warn them if it's too scary for them to handle? I don't know. I don't know where that line is, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I wrestle with that as well. You know, where's the balance between living a good life, where I'm not just constantly trying to be a warrior and wake everybody up, and, you know, I gotta look out for myself and for my partner and for the family that I want to bring into this world. And so I think it really comes down to knowing when to picking your battles, and also, you know, you're we're challenged and to step up to the plate. So you always know when there's a conversation being had, and someone says something, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do this, but I have to, you know. And so it's like someone's talking about vaccinations or something. I'm like, well, you know, and
yeah,
I become the conspiracy guy. I'm like, there's an idea out there. I'm not as much of a, you know, party pooper as I am in the videos, but I'm like,
yeah,
you know, there's an idea. Like, a lot of people might say, I read this thing, like, you know, trying to be really careful with it, but still standing up for it and not backing down from those moments. That's important.
I agree. I'm trying to find the balance where I used to be very aggressive, like, you have to know and you have to look and think about this stuff. Oh my
Oh
God, what
yeah.
can you see? And now I'm more like, well, here's a thing I heard and I'm interested in it. Maybe you are too. And if not, whatever.
And I think that's sort of like a rite of passage. I mean, everybody who wakes up has that moment, because once you do, when things start to click, I mean, it becomes the most important thing. You're like, holy shit, we've been lied to about everything, and I need to tell everybody because it's important. And then when you're met with like, what are you talking about? No way. Or they're like, no, you're crazy. And you're like, what? Come on. How do you not see it? So then you
Yeah.
have to reroute and figure out a different tactic, because otherwise you're just adrift and you will lose them.
Yes. Well, speaking of the videos, the Joy Camp videos, how did that all come about? And how have you been so lucky to find all these badass friends to play with?
Well, Joy Camp really just was a natural development. I was lucky, and I think about it all the time, and we actually acknowledge it all the time with each other, but I was lucky to wake up with my friends. I mean, we all did it together, Tony and Kevin. Anyway, Kevin and I in particular, and we really forced Tony. He didn't want to know. We were like, no, you're going to sit down and you're going to watch these videos. But we did it together. Luckily, I mean, I don't take that for granted at all, because I know most people have to go through it alone, and I got to go through it with my best friends, which is special. So it was a natural development in that we were all in college together in San Francisco, and Kevin and Tony were both writing majors. I was an acting major, and Kevin and Tony both had been, you know, making films since they were kids, and were editors, and were great with technical stuff. And I of course been studying to be an actor since I was 7, so I was very well versed at acting, but also at, you know, putting together performance pieces and knowing how to write and knowing how to, you know, like, and all the while we also had really good senses of humor. So we were
You guys are hilarious.
oh, thanks. We were able to again, because we were together, let off steam talking about how ridiculous some of this stuff was. So we were like waking up at, we were just plummeting down the rabbit hole and just going, what is this? And then we'd be like, can you believe it? Reptilians? I don't know. And then we like laugh about it because it becomes so ridiculous,
Mhm.
And all the while, I mean, again, I was still pursuing the acting dream because it was all I knew really. So I was still in school and I ended up going to graduate school for it. And Kevin and I really became important for us to participate because that was like, of the people that we admired, that was always a part of what they said. You have to do something. You have to do something. So we were listening. We were like, fuck, all right, well, what's our contribution? So we started going to like 9/11 meetup groups, and we'd go protest, and we'd hand out DVDs, and we did activism in that way. But it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel authentic for us. Not that there's not a place for that, of course, but it didn't feel like our best outlet for what we could do or how we could help. So one day we decided to make a little video called Conspiracy Theorist PSA. And we made it just for ourselves. Actually, what happened was Tony was in San Francisco with his friend, and they made a fake commercial called Conspiracy Cologne and sent it to us. And so Kevin and I were like, well, because Kevin and I were roommates at this point in LA. And we're like, well, let's make our own version and send it back to them. So they inspired us to make something, and then we made something. And
little battle.
And then we filmed it, and it was really just going to be for them. So we made it for 2 people to see it. And as we were editing it, it all just clicked. Like we had that moment where we're like, whoa, this is actually really good. This is good quality. It's well written. It's funny. It encapsulates a really good idea. And we thought, oh my gosh, this could be something that we could do more of, because what we had been commenting on already for a decade was how there was a serious lack of humor in all of this.
Yeah.
And all the it's always so scary. You watch a conspiracy video on YouTube and it has that ominous music,
and then you're like, oh my god, are we all gonna die? Like,
yeah.
No.
And you go to InfoWars for 30 seconds and you're shitting your pants because it's so terrifying. So there was so much fear. I mean, understanding that we're a world run by fear, but then also feeling so afraid when you actually like look behind the curtain, and it's just so serious all the time, and it is serious. So we thought, gosh, maybe we could try our hand at adding some comedy to this space. And we then decided to commit to it. We came up with the name. I came up with the name, and then we filmed 6 videos, and we decided to launch the channel with 6 videos already ready to go. And then it was received really well, and it's been happening ever since, which is in varying amounts. I mean, we go in spurts, definitely, because we all have to, it's hard to keep a group together. And
you have lives as well, in addition.
Lives, and there's definitely not much money to be made in truth-telling, at least that we've experienced. So yeah, anyway, that was how it was birthed, essentially, in 2012, and that's now been 6 and almost 7 years now. So that's the story.
It's a beautiful gift that you've given to the world, because what you're saying, there was no humor in it anywhere to be found in this sort of realm of conspiracy. And people need that. Like we're saying, it's so scary for people. And that's what makes them shut down. You're open to come into understanding, I think, which is really amazing. I think that's why it has done so well, is people desperately needed it.
Yeah, it is. It's a pressure release valve in the best way. I mean, people who are awake can watch a Joycam video and maybe not feel so scared. They can like take a load off, but it's also great ammo for someone trying to reach someone who's usually unwilling to research a topic or understand a situation, because we can one of the best comments we ever got was someone saying, you guys were able to say in a 3-minute video what I would say in a 300-page book.
Yes, and with humor, and it's all true. I mean, you actually have uh, factual information in there. It's not just some flippant, humorous thing.
Yeah,
You
we try
combine
our
all the
best.
best elements together. It's awesome.
Well, it also sort of forced us to be better researchers because we didn't want to spread misinformation or disinformation. We wanted to know what we were talking about. So when we were tackling particular subjects, we would try to know as much as we could about it so we didn't mess it up. And we also toe the line too. I mean, we also wanted to present material that was like, because I take issue with anybody who is too determined to, I don't know, commit to one idea. So
Yeah.
we wanted to present the idea so that someone can either take it or leave it, or at the very least, like, open it up for themselves. So if they're like, wow, I don't know about that, but I'm gonna look it up. Chemtrails pretty crazy, but I'm gonna check it out for myself. That would be the goal. So we're not telling people how to think. We're just
Yes.
offering them a little nugget.
I love that. It's
A
an
bite
enticing
size.
nugget. I think it works for so many people.
Yeah.
Well, what have been some of the biggest setbacks or crises for that path you're traveling with Joy Camp or with anything else, if you want to go there?
Biggest setbacks. Well, keeping a group together, like I said, has been very difficult. I mean, because for me on a personal level, as that started to open up, basically sinking into the Joy Camp stuff opened up my life. And, I've been in LA for a couple of years at that point, pursuing acting, and, simultaneous to Joy Camp taking off, I started booking more work. So I started making pretty good money in commercials for a couple of years. And that was great. But at the same time, it was like, it became more and more obvious the more and more I went into that path and of both commercials and with Joy Camp that professional acting wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to participate in that system anymore, but it's all I'd ever known. So I was in LA making money, but also making money by, lending my skill set towards corporations and companies that I don't have anything in common with, that I don't endorse, that have more often than not are providing something that people don't need at the very least, and all too often something that's unhealthy for them in some way. I was like, gosh, this is not, and for a while I was like, well, this is, I got to get paid and I'd rather do this than have a day job. So it did offered me more time freedom to make the Joy Camp stuff, but it was a conflict for me. So I knew in about 2014 that I needed to leave Los Angeles, and me leaving Los Angeles was difficult because, of course, I didn't know what else to do. And Kevin was pretty, rooted there, and he wasn't going to go anywhere. So it was challenging to keep it all going. And then we were also roommates for the first 3 years of Joy Camp, which made it very easy to make videos. And then he moved out and got married and moved in with his wife, and that's all great. But it did definitely, and he also got a full-time job based off of Joy Camp, which is interesting.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's a very demanding job, and his schedule is very busy. And so it just we started having these obstacles. And of course, I was constantly going, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? So that's been the most challenging thing, doing it as a group, because everybody's got to live their life and everyone's on their own path. And it's naive to think that we're all just going to like stay in this little bubble near each other, being able to produce this stuff forever, especially as we cross the threshold from 20s to 30s, and certain things, certain elements of our 20s sort of went away, like the bachelor life and living in an apartment, and I don't know, certain things just like we outgrew. So that's the biggest challenge, because we were so gung-ho for so long and wanting to keep it going strong for so long, but life just keeps it from being something that's, be able to be consistent. Now, that being said, it forced me to sort of explore my own personal path and contribution. And so while Joy Camp's production has sort of slowed down, my participation in the world has increased significantly. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So that maybe brings us to how you got connected with Anarchapulco.
Yeah, Anarchapulco. Well, I spoke at the first Anarchapulco, luckily. So I've been going there since the beginning.
Which is when was the beginning of Anarchapulco?
2015 was the
Okay.
first one.
Oh wow.
But even that, I mean, again, for the synchronicity, I had it's a lot to get into, so I'll spare the details. But I'd met I like to meet people who like Joy Camp. I mean, if I'm in an area and there's someone who knows who I am, I like to meet them and hang out because I think it's so exciting to meet like-minded people. It's like an instant friend, you know?
I feel the same way.
Yeah. So I was in 2014, after I knew that I wanted to leave LA, I was going on a sort of an odyssey. I was wanting to check out the rest of the coast, and I basically started in Vancouver and worked south. And at that same time, a woman reached out to me and Kevin saying that she discovered Joy Camp and it was the first time she'd laughed in years. And she thanked us and she said, if you're ever on Orcas Island, you know, I'll make you dinner. And I was like, Orcas Island?
I love Orcas Island.
Well,
oh my God.
It was just such a synchronicity because I was planning on going to see my friends on San Juan Island, which is the other island over there.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, funny you should message me because I'm going to be in San Juan Island next month. So anyway, I was in Vancouver. I went to San Juan Island, Orcas Island. I met this woman and we hit it off. She was great. And then I went back to LA and then she messaged me. She's like, you should be at this conference. And it was Anarchapulco. I didn't know who Jeff Berwick was. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about Bitcoin or any of that stuff. And so I said, that sounds great, but I don't think I can swing that right now. She's like, you should be there. I'll pay for it.
Wow.
So I was like, great. So I was like, well, maybe I can get some discounts because it's possible that Jeff is familiar with my work. So I reached out to Jeff, and sure enough, he knew about Joy Camp. He knew who I was. He had me on his Anarchast podcast right away. And then next thing I knew, I was down in Mexico speaking at Anarchapulco when it was very small. It was like 150 people or something, and it's really blown up since then. But I didn't perform or anything. I just gave a speech, and then I decided I didn't go back the second year for a variety of reasons, but then I went back 2 years ago, and my sort of hidden skill that I'd never share with the world was writing like very melodic Dr. Seuss type and like Shel Silverstein type poetry ever since I was a kid. And I started writing, it was when Joy Camp production started going down a little bit, and I just had my heart broken by a girl in LA. And I started writing poetry as a way to like reroute the energy.
Yeah.
And I wrote one poem and I was like, I think this is actually really good. I think people might actually really respond to this. So I decided to go to Anarchapulco and use my speaking slot to perform poetry I'd written. Which was that a pretty bold move, huh?
That Fuck the Government?
That was that year, yeah.
Oh my God, that's my favorite like spoken word piece in the world, hands down.
That's hilarious. Thank you.
I love it.
So funny. I actually came up with that poem while meditating, which is also really funny to me.
So rad.
So anyway, I went there and had a speaking slot, but didn't tell anybody what I was doing, and then performed my poetry, and it was so well received. I got 3 standing ovations in my 45-minute set. It was overwhelming, and I was like, okay, well, there's the validation I was seeking.
Yes.
So I started really stepping into it, and I started really committing to writing poetry, and then the last couple of years, I've been really lucky. I've been performing at all kinds of conferences and events and festivals, and yeah, it's really unlocked a whole other part of the world. I mean, parts of the world to me, and it's cool because then I've also now I'm friends now with all of my heroes.
Wow.
I feel like that's such an accomplishment, and it's also proof to me in my journey that I'm doing something right. I'm like getting validated over and over again and reassured that I'm on my, everything's going just fine.
Yeah. You're on the path.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it's awesome.
It's really that opened up parts of the world to you, but it's because you opened up like a part of yourself, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's a kind of it was like a sheepish thing to launch because I'm not. I mean, I feel like there's a stigma attached to poetry. Someone says
Yes.
they're a poet. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
So,
Because it
so
usually means a self-indulgent person who's obsessed with, getting attention. So, but that's not
yeah, so I was a little
actually
nervous
what
about it, but I
it
just
should
kept
be.
yeah, but I just kept trusting that I knew what I was doing would. I liked it, and I'm also a really good performer. So again, this is like it was like the coalescence of everything for me stepping into it because I spent over a decade becoming a stage actor. So I mean, at one point I did 55 plays in a row, and
Wow.
I was very, and I've done, I mean, I'm really well trained. I've done a lot of Shakespeare and Chekhov and Samuel Beckett and Tennessee Williams and Moliere and all these other playwrights. I mean, I'm thoroughly a lot of this.
Yeah.
So getting on stage and engaging with an audience, taking them on a journey, I'm really good at. And my problem with stage acting got to the point where I don't know, it was frustrating that, well, I basically got sick of telling someone else's story.
Yeah.
So with poetry, I can still do what I did on stage as an actor, but now I get to tell my story, and people seem to really like it.
What a beautiful thing.
For the most part, some people don't like it, but that's just
Well,
no. There's always going to be trolls out there.
they
Haters
can
going to
track
hate.
it.
People don't like Joycam videos. I mean, people don't. I'm so used to dealing with negativity at this point. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Well, hey, can you talk about that? Because that's something that I have not yet experienced, and I'm sure I will.
Sure. Yeah. There's always gonna be someone out there to, you know, try to take you down a notch. I mean, my mom actually instilled that in me as a little kid too. She said, "There's always going to be someone who doesn't like you. You're not going to be able to please everybody, and that's okay." And now I think that with the internet and with commenting, it's even worse because there's no repercussion for it. There's no like, and you can say anything and send it out into the ether and not see the way it's landing on the person or seeing the impact it's having. So it takes away the humanity, it takes away the empathy of communication, and people can just be such fucking assholes.
So
And
bad.
they'll say the meanest things, and I'm like, you don't know me. You have the audacity to say these outrageous things and make these claims about me and my character and throw my art under the bus, and but who are you? Like, would you say that to my face? Would you
Yeah.
really say that to my face?
This was
Would
the
you
beauty of
would you have
that
the audacity
last
to say that to my face?
that last video you did. I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called, but the one where you guys are talking trash back and forth on
Oh, the QAnon. Yeah.
yeah. And then that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it is at the end oh, should I spoil it? Can I spoiler alert?
Oh,
If you
sure. Yeah, yeah.
at the end he comes over and you guys sit down together, and it's like that's the beauty of that moment is it reminds people like you're real people, and that bubble you imagine that is the internet is not actually there. You're actually someone
totally.
when you're interacting
Cool.
in this way, and
yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad
I
you like
love
that moment because that is why we put it in there. It's like people they just are so brutal to each other online, and what if you just took that away and were like, hey, come on, let's just talk. Like, would you really be this mean to me if we were talking right now?
yeah.
So we did want to encapsulate that.
Well done.
Oh, thanks.
So then you're doing retreats now in California, or is that just a thing that was random, or is that something you're going to pursue?
Oh, I'm going to pursue it. I mean, I haven't been able to give it as much focus as I would like, because I would like to make it a bigger event, but we've had 2 one-day events the last 2 years. It's called Regeneration, and they've both gone over fabulously. I mean, really awesome. I mean, I've had so many people say it's the best conference they've ever been to, which is awesome. But yeah, it's just been a one-day event. I'm thinking about having it on the East Coast this coming year so I can get some of my friends out there involved. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot like the other conferences that I've been to, but again, what I felt was lacking from a lot of these conferences was was fun, was creativity. And obviously, as someone who uses my creative ability to promote bigger ideas and truth, I think it's one of our greatest tools. I mean, we are meant to create. It's, we are creators.
Yes.
So by nature. So I think that utilizing any creative platform to express ideas is valuable. And there's going to be, people are more willing to pay attention to that stuff. I mean, if you can like paint a picture, I mean, that's why I love people like David Dees and Mir One, because they say it all in a picture that you can look at with your eyes,
Yeah. It's like instant.
They don't have to explain themselves. It's
Mhm.
explained in the artistic piece of art.
That's our base level brain, I think, is this symbolic, emotional place.
Yeah, totally. So I got people involved who I knew could give good speeches. So I mean, Max Egan has become one of my best friends the last couple of years, and so I had him. I mean, in the last few years, I've had him and Bernard Gunther, who does, it's all about the hyperdimensional matrix, and I've had Sophia Smallstorm this year, and these people have really amazing presentations and great information to share. So when you juxtapose what they're offering, which is basically like very sobering truths about reality, but then I can come in and deliver a poem, or someone can sing a song, or even have a dance number, or have live painting in the background, it becomes a more enriching experience for everybody. And yeah, it's gone over really well. That's why I would love to expand on it, because the feedback's been so great. And I feel like it could really be a successful event if I and others could plan it a little more intently. But again, in life, I mean, I've gone through massive upheaval in the last year, and it looks like it'll probably be another one day event. But hey, if it's only one day event, at least it's still happening, and I think it's going to be awesome, no matter what context we put it in.
This is my favorite thing that I've heard about now that you're talking about it more. And I'm going to go to probably not the East Coast one, but maybe when you guys come back to this side of things, because it connects back to what you were saying at the beginning of the interview, actually, where we're able to look and see kind of what adults that you had as a child still that you hadn't lost yet. And I think that's exactly what you're doing in this venture that you're describing, is you're bringing that sense of play and innocence. Like there's a terrible, terrible thing, reality that we're all looking at together, but we still have that inside of us. And that, like you're saying, is, I think, it's like our superpower. You're reminding people.
Yeah.
We have a superpower.
And just encouraging everyone to contribute something in some way. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we all have something to offer. Everyone has a little piece of the puzzle, a little slice of the pie. And I think that just the way we're engineered and the way we're taught to think, it's very easy to feel too intimidated to speak up because of the fear of what people are going to think. And especially now with the trolling on the internet, like, it's a minefield. And especially the way I keep throwing liberals under the bus, but like the left days, they're so mean about everything. And there's such a group think. There's such a herd at this point. It's like you stand up, you offer some perspective on a situation, and you just get attacked from every direction. So it's intimidating to go into that sort of, to contribute, knowing, especially when you're dealing with truth, you're walking away from the herd. So there's going to be a lot of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's scary. So yeah, what we do, and with that event in particular, is try to empower people. Like, hey, you don't have to put together a slideshow presentation on the Jesuits. You can share something you've written, or you can pose a question, or you can do anything. Like, you can do anything you want to help. I mean, whatever speaks to you, and use creativity, if nothing else. Yeah, that's all.
And that level of vulnerability, like, literally changes the world. And each person that it affects then goes and turns and affects other people. You're just saving the world. No big deal.
Well, I don't know. There's definitely something happening. There's definitely some sort of awakening happening.
I feel that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though. I'm in a place in my life now where I'm operating in a certain level where everywhere I go, I'm around people that are like-minded. So for me, the awakening is all around me all the time, you
Yeah.
know. But then I can go someplace like I don't know, the DMV, and I'm like, there's no signs of an
Here.
awakening in here. So, or when I see the election, not even just the election results, but like the build up to an election, I'm like, boy, we were 2 steps ahead. Now we're 25 steps behind.
Yeah.
And then you see things like all the censorship and all the purging of websites and whatnot. And I'm just like, how, we are up against some serious resistance. So, yeah,
Yes.
it is happening, but it's also being stifled so horribly. It's the constant challenge.
Yes.
It's the challenge of the times.
I totally agree. I think that's part of this power of things like those conferences, though, and because I just think like any connection you can make. Someone I was talking to the other day was talking about how they have decided that every time they make eye contact with somebody, they're going to start talking to them and see what they can accomplish just in the few moments that you might have with a stranger in a day. And I just feel like those are the things that they are never going to be able to shut down, because it is terrifying when you look at the level of really, really advanced and subtle and obvious, overt and covert methods that they use to try to stop messages from getting sent and received.
Yeah, we're dealing with chess masters,
Masters.
who are, I think that we may, I don't know, it's tough to say. I think that we're all there. There is something happening. I think they're trying as hard as they can to stop it. But just
I don't think
because
that they get to.
what?
I don't think they get to. That's my personal faith. Is I think they're going to try as hard as they can to, and I don't think they
Well,
win.
I think you're. I mean, I agree because if I felt differently, I would give up. So I
True.
definitely feel there's we can win. I mean, I don't just mean we, but like the good. Nature seeks balance. Nature
Yes.
seeks balance, and we are overdue for some harmony in this world. And it's possible. Not to say that evil won't exist in some way, but it's being really nurtured and exploited, and it feels like it's more abundant than it is because the ones who are at the top are evil. So it permeates through our world, so it feels like we're living in a really evil place, but it's really not. It's just because the governing forces are psychopathic that it
Yes.
feels like it's much more dangerous than it is. So we want to be free. I mean, even the liberals who think we need to vote, they're only voting because they think it represents some sort of freedom. We all want freedom. We all want the same things, and it's bound to rebalance at some point. But it's up to us to carry the torch, and maybe we're not. Maybe we're just the very beginning phases of it, and I'll have kids and pass on the torch to them, and leave breadcrumbs along the way. Maybe someone will read a book of my poetry in 100 years and be like, man, this guy knew what was up.
Yeah.
So it's just about committing to that and trying to be the best that we can and do the best we can and overcome our own challenges and inner turmoil and trauma, and get ourselves to that balanced place and see what we can get done.
Yeah. I think that's key. I think that's key is there's all these great masters, and they say like the more you like work on yourself, and the more that you can fix all of yourself or go further into yourself, the more that you'll be able to do that in the world.
Absolutely. Well, like when I see all these people posting on Instagram with their "I voted" stickers, first of all, I'm like, was there a memo sent out that I just didn't see where people were instructed to do that? Because it's not a good look. It seems so retarded to me. But what was I going to say about that?
People are mindless, and they're just wandering around.
About that. Anyway, yeah, I voted sticker makes me. Oh, I forgot it. Forget it. Let's move on.
It was good. Well, wow. I feel like we hit on a lot of the things. I'm wondering if you want to talk about some of the challenges that you were mentioned that you faced in the last year and kind of where that's led you,
Oh,
or
that reminds me of what I was going to say. Okay.
oh,
I mean, it's so obvious to me. So what I'm going to say is people who have the I voted stickers, I want to know, like, well, how many of you are on prescription drugs? Like, how many of you take antidepressants? You know, this system you're holding on to so tightly that's destroying you from the inside out. You know, how many of you are really happy living inside this matrix and thinking that it's all okay? I mean, it's insane. We're trying to like trying to convince ourselves that an insane asylum that we're living in isn't crazy.
yes.
You know, and it makes sense to me that, you know, people aren't doing their own inner work. They're not exploring their own shadow self. So how can they possibly face the shadow of the world? It's very obvious to me. So many people are so unhappy. They're so afraid of what they're afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of, you know, the dreams they're pursuing being rejected. They're afraid that they're afraid of me being right. You know, because if I'm right about what I'm saying, then they're forced to question every single thing about their life and everything they hold sacred and everything that they've worked for and built, you know, and what they think is important. And it challenges all that. People aren't ready to hold the mirror up to themselves. And if they can't hold the mirror up to themselves, they cannot hold it up to the world around them. It's very clear. It's as, you know, it's as within, so without. So they are mad when people like me speak up because they don't want to hear it, because it reminds them of that thing we don't talk about, you know?
All those things we don't talk about.
Yeah, like, no, that's the thing. Like, we don't talk about that. We have to vote. It's voting.
Mhm.
Like, well, when does that ever work? It doesn't matter. We have to do it because the alternative is too scary, really.
True, because
for
the
them.
alternative is like ultimate personal responsibility.
Yeah. And yet, I mean, I always say, like, yeah, this shit is dark,
Mhm.
but it's liberating. Every time another layer is peeled back, and it's like, holy shit, I had no idea. Oh my God. It is up leveling. So yeah, there is some real atrocious stuff going on, and we've been horribly lied to about pretty much everything. But understanding that, as scary as that is, it makes life less scary. You know, it makes it, I'm more empowered. I can see it more as a playground and less like a job or like a place where there's a lot of rules. It's like, wait a minute, I make my own rules in this reality. You know, it is malleable. So it's liberating to know the truth and understand these concepts. I mean, these ideas they put out there about conspiracy theorists being, you know, crazy and kooks and nut jobs and feeling like they want to feel self-important or whatever nonsense they put out there.
Paranoid,
It's like,
delusional.
you know, you think I want to believe this stuff? You think I enjoy it? Like, I'm doing this for me? Like, it makes me feel good? Well, it doesn't. I don't want to believe that they're all satanic pedophiles
Yeah.
performing
No.
rituals, but it certainly seems like that might be the case. And you know what? Me knowing about that actually, like, takes another chain off of my wrist that's been locking me to the system. It's more just detachment, and it's freedom. It's liberation. So yeah, that's
Amen.
that.
Yeah. It's an interesting, like, almost paradox that looking into this deep darkness can be freeing and liberating, but it is absolutely true. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, everyone I meet who's going through this too would say the same thing. I mean, it takes courage. It's like, what I like to say is the rabbit hole led me to myself.
Yes.
You know, when you commit to it, when I committed to it, basically when I was like 21, I said, I want to know the truth. And by saying that, I was daring to question everything. And it was dark. I mean, it gets really dark really fast. You learn about secret societies and, you know, rituals and, you
Literal
know,
baby eating.
yeah, like really scary stuff, and control and prescription drugs and vaccinations and fluoride. And you're like, holy shit. But when you move through, it's like you have to clear through the cobwebs. You have to be brave. You have to stare down the barrel of the
Yeah.
gun and say, okay, I want to know. And then you see all this darkness. But then if you can work through that, if you don't shy away, you realize that there's beauty on the other side. You're liberated. Now you've dispelled the illusion, and now you're free. So it led me to myself. It led me to realizing that I could make life what I want it to be, you know, and I cannot be trapped and I cannot be enslaved by these lies. So yeah.
Well, and that programming too that you like shed off is so freeing as well. You know, like we're saying, they want you to be scared all the time. And when you kind of see through that whole paradigm, you're like, oh, I don't need to be attached to all that fear. And, you know, and that's one level of what you're talking about. But like all of those add up, like you're saying, this freedom is, I think, bigger than people imagine when they're on the other side. And if you're questioning like the nature of all of reality, you kind of, I think maybe you'll agree, you get to a place where you're not really even attached to like the material so much anymore, which is its own kind of creating playground to be in as well.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's important to constantly be shedding things that we acquire in life that we don't need.
Like literally.
Literally.
Which you've also done. Do you want to talk about that journey?
What's that? My journey of shedding things?
Material.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I fell in love a couple of years ago, and our
congratulations.
Powers. Oh, thank you. Our powers combined really accelerated both of our awakenings and both of our life paths, and both as individuals and now as a unit. And so we decided to get out of LA and, you know, take life by the horns and just do whatever we want, really, in pursuit of a better life for ourselves, and without being dependent on someone else to determine when we get paid or not. You know, so we're exploring some creative financial endeavors that add value to everyone involved. So we're all about value adding and not corrupting or not screwing anyone over. So everything we do is of value. And yeah, we live in a trailer now, a travel trailer that we can pull with our truck anywhere we want to go, and that's pretty awesome. So yeah, when we did this, we sold or donated about 90% of our stuff, which was harder for me than for her, but definitely difficult. But once it's gone, what I've noticed is once you get rid of something, it's like it never even existed. It's like you think you have some sort of like, oh, I need to hold on to this because it's significant in some way, and that may be true. And there are some things that I don't want to let go of, but usually when you like let it go, it's gone, and it has no hold over you anymore. So yeah, I definitely it was freeing myself literally of attachment.
Yeah.
To objects. And even like I have some stuff stored at my parents' house, and I looked through some of it when I was there last month, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot all about this thing. We kept this? Wow.
Which makes you
why do I have this?
Why did I even keep it? Yeah.
And so many people, I think that, you know, because we live in a materialistic world, the stuff they acquire to them is what represents proof that they're alive in a way. It's like the tangible proof that their life has meaning or something. And it's a weird association. So many people are hoarders. It's like, well, I have this thing and that represents something and it means this to me and it reminds me of this thing. And I think the less weight we carry with us as we move forward, the more light we are.
Literally. Yeah. I love that. I love the spiritual, the physical, and I like all the levels of that. And it's really interesting. Like neither of us knew this, but I'm also headed to that path and you're already doing it. So that's a synchronicity for me.
Totally. And it's cool that you're doing that. And it's, you know, going back to this idea of the awakening and what's happening. I mean, I have this conversation a lot with people. A lot of people are getting the same download. I mean, a lot of people are feeling that need to retreat and get away from cities and be in a much more having a mobile lifestyle where they can, you know, not be too rooted, not too weighted down by something. There's a call for a lot of people to start retreat centers, which I've noticed, and like live off the grid and get more in touch with farming and live in community. And there's like all these, we're all getting this at the same time, you know? And that's significant. It's worth noting.
Definitely. It makes me feel a lot. I mean, I had a lot of confirmation already that I was going the right way, but this is even more. And I literally had that part of it too, where I was like, well, I just want to do a retreat. I just want to create a space where people can come and like interact with each other, connect, and, you know, share and grow and be well. together.
So many people are getting that exact same message.
Yeah, I got to connect with them because I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't really have anything.
Well, go to Acapulco if you can.
Yes.
Meet some, if you, I don't know how many people you have in your life that you can talk to, but
a lot. I'm lucky. I
good.
kind of accidentally stumbled into a group, which most of them are going to listen to this podcast and be like, fist bumping in the background. But we're really lucky to find each other, because I think most of us in the group that we've found have come from places where we don't have a lot of people in our life. Like you were saying, you're so lucky to have your friends that you awakened with. And I think most of us don't have that. So we're really happy to find each other. And yeah, maybe that's part of the way
totally.
that maybe we all make a retreat together.
Absolutely. Well, I'm all about it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Sonia and I are doing what we're doing and living in the trailer, because our eyes are on the prize. I mean, I want to have a sacred space.
Yeah.
That's in a very in a part of nature that is abundant, that we can learn to work with the land and have community and be away from the noise as much as possible.
Nice. Love that vision. And I think it's a really beautiful place to bring things to a close. And so I want to ask you the last thing, like, do you have a message or advice or just something that you would want people listening to think about as we bring things to a close?
A lesson or advice?
Or a message, or...
Be brave. Be bold. Be bold, be the change. Don't care what other people think about you. Just do what you know is right. Stand up in the name of truth. When I talk about myself, I'm like, what's worked for me? To people, I say you have to face your fears, or else they're going to keep coming around. I think this is a spiritual journey, and it is how much we can grow, and I think that, and this is going to get really broad, but if we can see the potential of this world, which is something which I feel like I can see just by looking out the window right now. I see a beautiful world. I recognize that there are certain forces at work that are trying to keep us from realizing our own power and our own potential. And once you understand that the sky's the limit. I mean, we can help usher in a more balanced reality that's possible. You align yourself with that, and you literally become the change, because you are committed to making your life good, and then lives around you also good, and living in harmony with nature, which is a difficult thing to do. I mean, nature will kick your ass if you don't know how to work with it. So you have to develop a relationship with it. But we're taught to be afraid of each other and to blame each other and to feel like we're not worth it and we can't do something, we can't speak up, and we don't have what it takes, and people aren't going to like us. They're going to think we look weird or sound weird, or why would anyone want to hear what I have to say? And all these, really damaging voices in our head that keep us from doing anything. So I'd say just step into it. Be willing to fall flat on your face. Be willing to fail. Be willing to get booed off a stage. Be willing to be, mocked and scoffed at and ridiculed. It doesn't fucking matter.
Nope.
All that matters is the journey. You do you and contribute. And, if you have to have an uncomfortable conversation, boo-hoo. Have the uncomfortable conversation. Just have it. Even if it's with a family member. Like, I'm dealing with family members right now who are really upset with me because I'm not a fucking liberal, and they can suck it. Like, seriously. I love them, and it kills me that they think I'm something that I'm not, but I will not acquiesce. And I'm hoping that they come around at some point and be like, dang, you were right. Because I will not sacrifice my integrity so that my family thinks of me in some certain way.
Yes.
So face your fears, and, life is full of challenges. No one has it easy. No one. I mean, we're being taught to see ourselves as victims and seeing ourselves as separate from others, as saying like, well, I'm gay, so I don't have the advantage that someone else has. Well, I'm a woman, and I've been oppressed, and I'm black, and no one knows what it feels like to suffer like me. Forget all of that. You're not a victim. anything can empower you. Anything, even if you're, gang raped in an alley, that could be something that empowers you. It's not to say that it's a good thing or that it should happen, but anything can lead you to being a better person if you find the way to empower yourself through the experience. Everything is an opportunity. That's what I'm saying. So find that silver lining. See challenges as opportunities, not things that are going to destroy you. And just do it. Be brave, be bold, be empowered, speak your truth, and face your fears, and use those challenges as stepping stones towards growth.
Amen and hallelujah. God damn, that was like a spoken word poetry moment all in itself.
I don't know why gang rape was the example I came up with. I just thought, like, what's the worst possible thing that a person can endure?
Yeah, that would be like the worst possible thing.
It's all what you do with the information. It's how you handle it. It's how you use it to become a better person and contribute in a positive way.
It's true. And not, like you're something more than that and beyond that. And that is not you. That moment isn't you. And that identity isn't you. And it's awesome that you use that as an example. And I think you're absolutely right that there's a definite reason why the powers that be and all of these conspiracies want us to believe that we're not capable and that we're not powerful. And it's because we are capable and we are powerful. And being brave and bold, like you're saying, bring that into being.
Absolutely.
Amen. Well, blessed Benny Wills. I have crossed paths with you in such a way that we're able to spend this time together. Thank you so much for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Corey Sharman YouTube channel and the listeners of the Rogue Ways podcast find more of your hilarious and uplifting work?
Oh, well, okay. You can go to thejoycamp.com, which is our website, but it's kind of outdated. It's being worked on, and the new version will be launched soon, but you can still go there for now. YouTube channel, youtube.com/joycamp. We have over 120 videos at this point, I think, and we have a podcast
like 43,000 views, I might add.
Well, we've had videos that crossed. I think our most popular video was up around 600,000 or something, but then they ended up taking it down and giving us a strike in our account.
Bastards.
Which has happened multiple times now. We've actually had view count manipulation. We've seen it happen in real time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we've been tapped ever since we got that first strike, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, you can go to youtube.com/joycamp. You can find me personally on Facebook, or you can follow Joycamp on Facebook, or both. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter and all those other social media platforms. Also, Steemit. If you're into like blockchain stuff, I'm on Steemit as Joycamp Benny, Joycamp_Benny. What else? I'm like getting involved with all these other sites too. I mean, I'm just uploading videos to BitChute and to, well, I guess it's not, it was called Real.video, but now it's called something else. The one that Mike Adams is doing. Also Minds.com. You can find me on Minds.com as Joycamp. I just had an interview with the founder of Minds.com yesterday. It seems like it's a really cool platform. So if you need a break from Facebook, go to Minds.com. I'm basically all over the internet. Just type in Benny Wills, Joycamp, one or the other or both, and you'll see my face around.
Awesome. Yeah, we have Minds is kind of the backup idea, I think, for Facebook for me and a lot of the people I talk to, because Facebook is more and more compromised, manipulated, and evil all the time.
Yeah, totally. And why do we want to be on there anyway? I mean, we've been making fun of it for being a surveillance device for 10 years, and yet we're all still on it.
We're still letting them surveil us.
And that being said, I'm still on there, and you can find me on there.
Yeah, exactly. We're just trying to walk the line, Yeah,
exactly. Well, it's a good place to try to reach people that aren't on the alternative platforms yet. So I guess nothing else. Anyway, find me. I'm around. And and also, if you ever want to throw us some nickels, we accept donations. Everything we do has been produced through donation money. Nothing we get goes towards goes into our bank accounts. It goes all towards production. So if you want to donate to Joycamp, we will happily take it, and we will apply it directly towards more content.
Oh, what a beautiful thing. That's amazing. And it's well produced as well. So it's all the good things in one place.
And we have a
Oh,
Patreon and PayPal and all that other fun and Bitcoin and all kinds of ways to get money from you.
share the love.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you. Friends,
Thanks, Lizzie.
thank you. That is the world according to Benny Wills, creator of Joy Camp and fellow reveler in the beauty and wonder of all that exists. This has been your analog, concentric, electric dose of wisdom for the day. And as always, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.